Imagine waking up tomorrow and realizing the retirement you rushed into at 55 might quietly cost you thousands of dollars every single year. Not because you made a bad investment, not because the economy crashed, but simply because of when you chose to retire. It sounds shocking, but for many people, this is exactly what happens when they tap into the Canada Pension Plan, better known as CPP, too early. Most people think retiring early means freedom, more time with family, traveling, finally enjoying life after decades of work. And while that dream sounds perfect, there's a side of early retirement almost no one talks about. Hidden penalties, permanent reductions, and financial gaps that can quietly grow bigger every year you're out of the workforce. Here's the part that surprises many future retirees: claiming CPP at 55 or even planning to rely on it too early can permanently shrink your monthly income for the rest of your life. That means smaller checks, less protection against rising costs, and fewer financial options later when healthcare, housing, and everyday expenses start climbing. But the real story goes even deeper. There are 7 specific reasons early retirement could seriously impact your financial security, and most people only discover them after it's too late to fix the decision. These reasons involve contribution years, penalty reductions, inflation risks, and even how long your retirement savings actually last. If you're thinking about retiring early or even dreaming about leaving work before 65, this is information you absolutely cannot afford to ignore. So before you make a decision that could shape the rest of your financial future, make sure you watch this video all the way through, and don't forget to like the video so more people can learn the truth about retiring early and what it really means for your CPP benefits. When people imagine retiring at 55, the picture in their mind is almost always the same. They see peaceful mornings without alarm clocks, long walks without worrying about emails, and the feeling that after decades of hard work, they finally get to reclaim their time. For many Canadians, that dream begins with one important question: if I leave work early, what happens to my pension? And that's where the reality of the Canada Pension Plan begins to matter in ways that most people don't fully understand. The truth is, the timing of your retirement decision can quietly shape your financial future for decades. CPP was designed with a very specific structure in mind. It assumes that most people will begin receiving benefits around age 65, after many years of contributions through their working life. When someone decides to step away from the workforce 10 years earlier, the system still works, but the outcome often looks very different from what retirees initially expect. One of the biggest surprises people discover is how sensitive CPP benefits are to the number of years you contribute. Every year you work and pay into the system builds your future pension. When you retire at 55, those contributions stop earlier than planned. That means fewer years adding to your benefit calculation, which can lead to a noticeably smaller monthly payment later in life. Many people assume their CPP amount is fixed based on what they have already contributed, but the reality is that the calculation reflects your full contribution history across many years. Another detail that often catches early retirees off guard is how benefit adjustments work when payments start before the standard age. Although CPP officially allows benefits to begin as early as 60, starting earlier than the full retirement age leads to a permanent reduction in the monthly payment. The system reduces benefits gradually for every month they are taken early. That reduction does not disappear later. It continues for the rest of your life, which means the financial impact can stretch across decades of retirement. This matters because retirement today often lasts far longer than people expect. Decades ago, many retirees expected to live 15 years after leaving work. Today, it is not unusual for retirement to last 25 or even 30 years. A reduced monthly benefit might not seem dramatic at first, but over that length of time the difference can add up to tens of thousands of dollars. There is also the reality that many people who retire at 55 still have 10 years before CPP benefits can even begin. That gap becomes one of the most important financial challenges early retirees must plan for. Without employment income during that period, people often rely heavily on personal savings or workplace pensions. If those funds are not carefully managed, they can begin shrinking faster than expected, especially when inflation slowly increases the cost of everyday living. Inflation is another factor that quietly changes the early retirement equation. Even small increases in prices can reshape a retirement budget over time. Groceries, utilities, transportation, and healthcare costs rarely stay the same year after year. CPP does include cost of living adjustments, but when the base benefit is smaller because it started early, the inflation adjustments are also smaller. Over time, that difference can affect purchasing power in ways that are difficult to predict when someone first leaves the workforce. Healthcare is another part of retirement planning that becomes more visible with age. At 55, many people feel healthy and energetic, which makes early retirement seem financially manageable. However, as the years pass, medical expenses, prescription costs, and insurance needs can change. A smaller pension combined with rising healthcare costs can place unexpected pressure on a retiree's financial stability. Another issue people sometimes overlook is how early retirement can influence other sources of retirement income. Some workplace pensions are designed around a retirement age closer to 60 or 65. Leaving work early can change how those benefits are calculated or when they begin. In some situations, individuals may receive reduced payments from multiple sources at the same time, which compounds the effect of starting retirement early. Taxes also play a role in the overall picture. Retirement income can come from several places at once: CPP, private pensions, savings withdrawals, and investment income. The timing of these withdrawals can influence how much tax is owed each year. Retiring early may require careful planning to ensure income is distributed in a way that avoids unnecessary tax burdens. Without that planning, retirees might find that more of their savings disappears into taxes than they originally expected. One of the most overlooked realities of early retirement is the psychological shift that comes with it. For decades, work provides not only income but also routine, social interaction, and a sense of purpose. When that structure suddenly disappears, some retirees find themselves reconsidering their decision. In some cases, people choose to return to part-time work, not only for financial reasons but also to stay engaged and active. Returning to work after retiring early is more common than many people realize. Some individuals take on consulting roles, seasonal jobs, or flexible part-time positions. This additional income can help offset the smaller pension payments that come with early retirement. It can also extend savings and provide more financial breathing room during the years before government benefits begin. Financial planners often encourage people considering early retirement to think carefully about the long-term picture rather than focusing only on the first few years after leaving work. It is easy to plan for the immediate future, but the real challenge lies in maintaining stability 20 or 30 years later. The decision to retire early does not just affect the present, it echoes through every stage of retirement. That does not mean retiring at 55 is always the wrong choice. For some individuals, it works well because they have substantial savings, strong investment portfolios, or other sources of guaranteed income. Others may prioritize time with family, travel opportunities, or personal health over maximizing pension benefits. Retirement decisions are deeply personal, and financial calculations are only one part of the story. However, what often creates problems is not the decision itself but the lack of information before making it. Many people underestimate how dramatically timing can influence their long-term income. They imagine that leaving work 10 years early will simply shift their lifestyle forward, when in reality it changes the entire structure of their retirement finances. Understanding how CPP works allows people to make more informed choices. Some workers decide to delay retirement a few additional years once they see the long-term impact on their benefits. Others plan for part-time income after leaving full-time employment. A few even discover that working until 60 or 62 instead of 55 can significantly improve their financial security without dramatically changing their lifestyle plans. Another approach some retirees use is phased retirement. Instead of stopping work completely at 55, they gradually reduce their working hours over several years. This strategy allows them to continue contributing to CPP while also easing into the lifestyle of retirement. The extra contributions and additional income can help strengthen their financial position before benefits eventually begin. The conversation around early retirement has become more common in recent years because many workers are rethinking their priorities. The idea of spending decades working non-stop until traditional retirement age does not appeal to everyone. People want flexibility, balance, and time to enjoy life while they are still healthy and energetic. Those goals are completely understandable. Yet the financial system was designed around longer working lives, and that creates tension between the dream of early retirement and the reality of pension calculations. When individuals understand that gap, they are better equipped to plan around it rather than being surprised later. One of the most powerful steps anyone considering early retirement can take is simply running realistic projections. Seeing the difference between retiring at 55, 60, and 65 often reveals how dramatically the numbers can change. Sometimes the increase in lifetime income from waiting a few more years is larger than people expect. These projections also highlight another important truth: retirement planning is rarely about a single decision. It is about a series of choices that interact with each other. Savings habits, investment strategies, housing decisions, and lifestyle expectations all shape the outcome. CPP is just one piece of the puzzle, but it is a piece that influences the rest. Ultimately, the decision to retire early comes down to balancing freedom with financial stability. The dream of leaving the workforce at 55 is powerful, and for some people it becomes one of the most rewarding chapters of their lives. But the path to that dream works best when it is built on clear information, careful planning, and realistic expectations about how pension systems operate. As people get closer to the idea of retiring at 55, another reality slowly begins to surface, and it's something many workers don't fully consider during the excitement of planning their exit from the workforce. The gap between the age someone stops working and the age they begin receiving government benefits can feel longer than expected. In the case of the Canada Pension Plan, benefits generally cannot begin until age 60, and even then, taking them that early permanently reduces the monthly payment. That means someone who retires at 55 could face 5 full years without CPP income at all, followed by a reduced benefit once it finally starts. Those 5 years often become the most financially delicate period of early retirement. During that time, everyday expenses don't pause simply because someone has stopped working. Mortgage payments, property taxes, groceries, transportation, insurance, and healthcare costs continue month after month. For retirees who rely heavily on personal savings during this period, withdrawals can begin to add up faster than expected. What initially felt like a comfortable financial cushion may start shrinking at a pace that raises concern. Many people underestimate how quickly retirement savings can decline when they become the primary source of income. When someone is working, savings accounts and investment portfolios often grow because new contributions are being added regularly. Once retirement begins, that dynamic changes completely. Instead of money flowing into those accounts, money begins flowing out of them every single month. Over time, that shift can create pressure on long-term financial plans, particularly if markets fluctuate or unexpected expenses appear. Another factor that quietly shapes early retirement is longevity. Life expectancy has increased significantly over the past several decades, which means retirees today often live much longer than previous generations. While living longer is obviously positive, it also means retirement funds must stretch across many more years. Someone who retires at 55 and lives into their late 80s could spend more than 30 years outside the workforce. That length of time requires careful financial planning, especially if government pension benefits are smaller because they began early. The emotional side of early retirement can also be more complicated than people initially expect. After decades of structured work schedules, daily routines suddenly disappear. At first, that freedom feels exciting and refreshing. But as months turn into years, some retirees begin to realize that work once provided more than just income. It offered social interaction, a sense of progress, and daily purpose. Without that structure, some individuals start to reconsider how they want to spend their time. That's why many early retirees eventually explore flexible work opportunities again. Some choose consulting work within their former industry, while others take on entirely new part-time roles that align with their interests. This shift is rarely about financial desperation. Instead, it often becomes a strategic way to supplement retirement income while staying mentally and socially active. Even modest part-time income can significantly reduce the pressure on savings during the years before full pension benefits begin. Housing decisions can also play a major role in determining whether early retirement feels comfortable or stressful. For many households, housing represents the largest monthly expense. Retirees who carry mortgage payments into their mid-50s may discover that those payments take a substantial portion of their retirement income. Some individuals respond by downsizing their homes or relocating to areas with lower living costs. These changes can free up cash flow and reduce financial pressure during retirement. However, moving or downsizing is not always an easy decision. Homes often carry emotional value, especially after decades of family memories. Leaving that environment can feel difficult even when the financial logic makes sense. This is another example of how retirement planning extends beyond simple numbers. It involves balancing financial stability with lifestyle preferences and personal comfort. Another detail many early retirees discover involves how government benefits interact with personal income later in life. When CPP eventually begins, the amount received each month depends on contribution history and the age at which benefits start. If those benefits are reduced because they began early, retirees must rely more heavily on savings or other pensions to maintain their desired lifestyle. That reliance increases the importance of careful financial planning long before retirement actually begins. Taxes also remain an ongoing consideration throughout retirement. Some retirees assume that once they stop working, taxes will no longer be a major factor. In reality, retirement income from pensions, investments, and government benefits can still create significant tax obligations. Planning when and how to withdraw funds from different accounts can help manage those obligations and protect more of a retiree's income. Another reason early retirement sometimes becomes financially challenging is the unpredictability of future costs. While people can estimate their basic living expenses fairly accurately, certain costs remain difficult to predict. Healthcare needs, home repairs, family support, and economic changes can all introduce unexpected expenses. When retirement begins earlier than usual, there is simply more time for these unpredictable events to occur. For this reason, financial experts often encourage individuals considering early retirement to build a margin of safety into their plans. That margin might include additional savings, diversified investments, or part-time income opportunities that provide flexibility if circumstances change. Having that flexibility can make a significant difference in maintaining financial confidence throughout retirement. It is also important to recognize that retirement goals evolve over time. Someone who imagines a travel-filled lifestyle at age 55 may discover different priorities 10 or 15 years later. Health, family responsibilities, and personal interests can all reshape how retirees choose to spend their time and money. The financial plan that supports retirement must be adaptable enough to accommodate those changes. Despite these challenges, early retirement remains a dream many people successfully achieve. The key difference between those who struggle and those who thrive often comes down to preparation. Individuals who fully understand how systems like the Canada Pension Plan operate tend to make decisions with clearer expectations. They recognize how benefit timing affects monthly income and adjust their plans accordingly. Some workers decide that delaying retirement by just a few years dramatically improves their financial outlook. Continuing to work until 58, 60, or even 62 can allow additional CPP contributions, higher personal savings, and fewer years relying solely on investments. Those extra years sometimes strengthen retirement finances far more than people initially expect. Others choose a hybrid approach where they leave full-time employment but remain partially active in the workforce. This strategy can create a smoother transition into retirement while maintaining a steady stream of income. It also allows individuals to continue contributing to pension systems and personal savings for a little longer. What becomes clear through all of these scenarios is that retirement timing is one of the most powerful financial decisions a person will ever make. The age at which someone stops working influences everything that follows: pension income, savings longevity, tax planning, and overall lifestyle flexibility. When that decision is made thoughtfully, early retirement can still deliver the freedom and satisfaction many people hope for. In the end, the dream of retiring at 55 is not unrealistic. It simply requires a deeper understanding of how financial systems operate and how long retirement may last. When people take the time to examine these details before making their decision, they place themselves in a far stronger position to enjoy the decades that follow. Because retirement should ultimately feel like the reward for years of dedication and effort, not a source of financial uncertainty. And the more clearly someone understands how programs like the Canada Pension Plan shape their income, the more confidently they can step into that next chapter of life knowing they planned for the future as carefully as possible.